Perfect. Let's ask ourselves this question. What's the most important AI breakthrough of 2022? And there's a little hint that you can take, but the answer is not that. This is a trick question. And to answer this question, I have to go back and tell you a little story. We all know who this is, and if some of you didn't know him, probably you got to know him last week because he won the Nobel Prize for Physics as of last week. But in 2011, he was a researcher in Canada working on some very interesting deep learning technologies. When Google really figured out that AI is going to change the world, they desperately wanted to hire Geoffrey Hinton into their team. They wanted to hire him, but they were trying to figure out what is the right price to hire Geoffrey Hinton at. Geoffrey Hinton had two lowly interns. One of you might know there. He started a small company called OpenAI, and now another one called SSI, Safe Superintelligence Incorporated, called Ilya. And so this group of 3 people were hired at Google. But he had other options. Geoffrey had other options because Baidu was interested in him, Microsoft was interested in him, and there were a bunch of other companies who all wanted to hire him. So they set up a company called DNN Research. And then there was a whole auction process which lasted several days, email-based auction where everybody had to up the price by $1 million to be in the race. Every 30 minutes you would receive new bids. And eventually, when the price reached $44 million, Geoffrey said, I'm stopping this auction right now, and I'm going to join Google. And then he joined Google along with Ilya and Alex. And Alex is the guy who's after the AlexNet, the very famous AlexNet, which did an amazing job in 2012 in the ImageNet competition, which triggered this whole AI revolution. So these 3 people joined Google. And then after a couple of years of that, they decided to go and buy a company. This company was in the UK. And now the problem with Geoffrey Hinton is that he cannot fly because he cannot sit. He has this huge back problem because of which he's always standing. He doesn't sit anywhere. Right? And he had to go, so flying across the Atlantic was just simply ruled out for him. So Jeff Dean from Google took a Medi-evacuation plane, went to Canada, picked him up, and in this Medi-evacuation plane, they took him all the way to London to buy this company called DeepMind. I'm still telling you the same story about what is the most important breakthrough of 2022. Let me get to the punchline a little bit. They went and met DeepMind, Demis Hassabis and the team, and eventually they decided to buy DeepMind for 400 million pounds, which is a very big number back then, about $600 million. Everybody was saying, this is a waste of money. What are we doing with these guys? These guys just play Atari games. Nothing useful will come out of that. And then they brought DeepMind's team into Google to work on their data centers. The data centers at that time were consuming 3% of world's electricity. Google itself consumes 1% of world's electricity. 1% of world's electricity. So making the data centers more efficient was very important. So they got the DeepMind researchers to work on that problem. And within 12 weeks, they were able to reduce the electricity expense by 15% using deep reinforcement learning. That's what happened. And the entire 400 million pounds that Google was paying was paid off by this just one project that DeepMind researchers worked on. Now, let me get to the answer to the question, what are the most important breakthrough of 2022? So these guys who were playing Atari games eventually decided in 2022 to release the 3-dimensional structures of 200 million proteins. 200 million proteins. Now, releasing the 3-dimensional structure of a protein is very important because to build any vaccine, any drug, you need to know the 3-dimensional structure so that you can build that lock and key mechanism, right? And how the protein folds into the 3-dimensional structure is a very difficult problem to solve. A PhD researcher spends their entire PhD in figuring out the 3-dimensional structure of one protein using X-ray crystallography. So using machine learning, they were able to deduce the structure for 200 million proteins, and they released it for benefit of humankind. Now, some 10,000 labs around the world are using this data and making important discoveries every day. So even though ChatGPT was this big AI moment for 2022, in many ways, this was a much bigger moment. And by the way, I had this slide before the Nobel Prizes were announced. And just last week, we saw that these guys, even Demis Hassabis got the Nobel Prize for chemistry for this amazing work. Now, that is the power of deep tech. When deep tech really works, it can change the world in very, very significant ways. Now, there are some examples from India. Let me give you an example of India. We started this business called Cure.ai many, many years ago, or 10 years ago. And when we initially built an X-ray detection algorithm, so you take an X-ray, find out 30 different abnormalities in that X-ray, we were thinking that the whole world will adopt it. But it was a huge struggle because doctors simply were not used to using AI for X-ray reporting. So what did we do? We went and spoke to a bunch of different people and eventually figured out that tuberculosis is a very important problem. And many places around the world, diagnosing tuberculosis takes a lot of time. So Philippines used to have these vans that would go all over the country in Philippines, scan everyone with an X-ray, take all the reports and take it back to the headquarters, and then find out which of those patients had tuberculosis and then reach out to them. This whole process used to take 4 weeks. Then Cure got in and said, you don't have to take 4 weeks because by 4 weeks, patients are lost to follow-up. So what we will do is to put this X-ray algorithm in the van that is going around the country, and literally on the same day after you figure out who has tuberculosis, you can put them on a drug therapy. It took off. About 5 million people around the world have accessed this TB screening through Cure's algorithms. And then Cure went on to do lung cancer detection. Now, lung cancer detection, along with AstraZeneca, is impacting many, many people around the world because lung cancer, when detected early, can be cured easily with drugs. But if detected late, it is fatal. So now what Cure is doing is working along with AstraZeneca. It has created a lung cancer detection screening program around the world, and it's preventing a lot of lives from being lost unnecessarily. Overall, Cure has created this 25 million people have been impacted. 25 million people have been scanned through Cure's algorithm so far. So deep tech, when it works, it can create enormous scale and impact, as seen by an Indian company called Cure.ai that I thought I should mention. Now, just a couple of examples before I wrap up. We know that autonomous driving has been a huge challenge. Started in 2005 as a grand challenge, DARPA grand challenge, and now this is Waymo. Waymo is actually already real in 3 cities in the US, in San Francisco, in LA, and Phoenix, where it's doing more than 100,000 rides per week, fully autonomous. And Google's Waymo's mission is to create one intelligent driver. It's not a car company. It's not creating an autonomous car. The idea is to create one amazingly intelligent driver, and then she or he can drive the whole world, right? Because you can copy that. It's a one AI driver changing the world. And their results are quite stunning. 73% reduction in accidents. 73% reduction in accidents compared to same kinds of situations, driving situations that they are encountering, human beings encounter. So that is the power of deep tech to save lives, impact our world, and make human progress. We've seen with Elon Musk and SpaceX, when SpaceX was started, it was a very interesting idea. Just imagine, just think of it. Let's say you had to drive from here to the airport, and you took a car, and once you reach the airport, you had to discard the car because the car doesn't work. That was the rocket technology back then because rockets were not reusable. So the kind of materials you can use to build a rocket and the kind of investments you could make in building a rocket were very different. Elon Musk came up with the idea of a reusable rocket, and now you know that SpaceX is really changing the world, including their amazing accomplishments last week. There's a little Indian company out there as well, which is doing amazing work in autonomous drones. IdeaForge is an Indian deep tech company that's already public in the stock markets. So it has commercialized, it has scaled. So we have amazing examples of how deep tech can really change the world, including Indian companies that are changing the world. So what do we really need? We need supportive client ecosystem, right? Clients have to take risks. Customers have to take risks on these. US has that supportive ecosystem where customers take risks. We need patient capital, like Rajesh also mentioned. We need capital that can bet big and stay long, like it happened with SpaceX, it happened with Tesla, it happened with DeepMind, and so on. And we need people who will take that risk and join these kinds of companies and take that big risks. Most importantly, we need these entrepreneurs who are thinking big, thinking bold, and staying the long term. And I've seen a remarkable change in the deep tech ecosystem in terms of the boldness of the entrepreneurs that I witness every day. This is exponential because like the story of the grains of rice multiplying, we know that deep tech, once it takes off, it can really impact the world. We have 3 amazing companies today that I have the pleasure of introducing and bringing to the stage. Let me first call upon Deepak Lala from Cellworks. Deepak, can you please come on stage? Deepak is building an amazing company called Cellworks, and I'll let him spend the next 5 to 6 minutes telling you about what Cellworks does. Deepak?
Thank you. Good morning, all. It is an unfortunate fact, but the rate at which cancer is growing, 1 in every 3 individuals is at a risk of detecting this terrible disease. What that means is, you look to the person to your left, look to the person to your right, and unfortunately 1 in 3 of you might be diagnosed with it. What's even more surprising is the therapy options that are there today. The traditional treatment options do not account for the complexity with which the cancer is. So the traditional treatment options do not account for the complexity. What happens is it leads to the trial and error methods, which basically cost a lot of lives. And what we are trying to do at Cellworks is basically solve this problem, the most critical problem in healthcare. How do you personalize treatment options for cancer? Now, you just explained out, Srikanth, on AlphaFold, releasing 20 million protein compounds there, and that allows for binding. But while that's really very important, and we all have appreciated, the world has acknowledged that how important that is. What really matters in terms of cancer is what happens downstream after that. The whole cell biology system in terms of after binding is where the difference in patient 1 to patient 2 comes in. And that's essentially what we try to capture here. What you look out here is basically a dashboard of a product that we've created. This product basically caters to physicians to allow them to run through patients where we can have a system which is based on deep tech, using AI, using a big data, but along with that, the most critical factor, using a lot of cell biology in terms of differentiating it, in terms of allowing it to create a personalized patient model, and then predicting for therapies. This basically is a reflection of the outcome of our product today, where we have a lot of therapy options available. If a person gets detected by lung cancer, today, as per the protocol, there are 65 plus therapy options on which the patient can be put on. What happens in the clinic is, it's a trial and error method. You basically try with therapy 1. If it doesn't work, you go to the 2nd line of therapy, and then you move to the 3rd line. Now, this basically approach, while is being followed, is also costing a lot of resources, and it's impacting on the patient health. What we are able to do is, using our models, we have 285 drug models clubbed along with the technology that we just spoke about. We can create numerous combinations of these combinations, simulate them computationally for a patient model, and then come up with the best therapy option that can be recommended for the patient. So this allows the physician to make a good decision for the patient. Now, while I was emphasizing that technology is really important, the integration of technology with biology is the key here. And what you see is basically to reflect or state the importance of that, wherein not only we are stating that how a therapy will work or how much it will work for that patient, but why is it going to work? So you're providing enough evidence for the physician or the clinician to take an informed decision, all in the best interest of the patient. Now, the whole focus for us is basically not only to improvise the healthcare system, but basically redefine it by actually bringing in personalization in the aspect. Thank you.
Okay, Deepak, you have a biosimulation platform.
Yes.
And we are getting 3 companies on stage today. All 3 companies are addressing something which you can call as the holy grail of that industry. So what you're doing is the holy grail of medicine, which is personalized medicine. It's been touted as one of those big solutions to everything.
Right.
And you have this biosimulation platform. How is it different from any other personalized medicine platform out there? Just tell us a little bit.
Sure. So there are, in fact, a lot of personalized medicine options if you go and read about it. And most of these personalized therapy options is actually based on population data. So, they'll have a cohort of 50,000 population, and you will have responses from them. You will have clinical markers. Now, all of that is very important, right? Because it's such huge data that actually feeds into the system to decide the response for a drug. So we use all of that. But what is missed in that approach is the genomic differences of one person to the other, right? No 2 people can make the same tea even with the same ingredients. Now, that's what genetics is. So no 2 people are same. The cell biology is entirely different.
Let me come to that, right? When the human genome was decoded back in early 2000s, it was touted as this golden age of medicine is about to come, because once we know the mutation, we know the drug. So
Right.
One mutation, one drug, magic, right? That's what was supposed to be done. But it turned out to be very different. That didn't play out very well. So tell us a little bit about why that failed and how your approach works better.
So, while one gene, one drug approach did bring in a change in the healthcare system, wherein, the traditional methods which were just followed as protocols that I said, started being followed in terms of using this approach, which did benefit the patient life as well. But where it fails terribly is that we are talking about one gene and one drug. We are ignoring the fact that in the patient who has cancer, who has advanced stage of cancer, there are hundreds of mutations that occur there. Now, what we have developed at Cellworks is a computational biology model, which is a reflection of 6,000 cancer genes and 600,000 molecular interactions. So you can imagine it's like Google Maps, right? Bringing the
Yes.
world in your hand.
And you have this thing called therapy response index, which I saw on the slide as well.
Right.
Right. So tell us a little bit about what this therapy response index, how does it specifically address this issue?
Sure, I'll just tie it to the same answer. So basically, the whole CBM, the computational biology model that we've created, it's a mathematical model based on ODE. And we basically run a lot of simulations. So we have drug models, we've got patient data, we create a patient-specific model of that, and that's what we basically simulate. Now, talking about TRI, when I'm saying that we have so many molecular interactions, we identify the change in the network that's happening along with the drug. And this change in the network that is basically being identified is being converted into a score, which we call as the therapy response index.
So you would know, based on all the mutations, based on the combination of drugs, which is the most likely to provide the benefit, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you for helping us progress on the holy grail of medicine.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Srikanth.
Deepak.
Thank you,
We'll get the
nasscom.
next speaker on stage. Can I have Aditi Vaidya, please? Aditi is a co-founder of Quanfluence, which is a quantum computing startup. Also is working on something called as an Ising machine, optical Ising machine. So Aditi, over to you.
Hi, good morning. So at Computational, we are a photonics technology-based company. As of today, we are working on the Ising machine, the coherent Ising machine. So this is an optimizer. It is a full solution to solve optimization problems. So problems such as what is the most optimal route a truck should take while making deliveries? Or when you talk of financial portfolio optimization, what is the right mix of assets that will give you the maximum returns with minimum risk? So these kind of problems are best solved on specialized hardware. That is the optimizer that we are building. So our quantum-inspired optimizer consumes far less power compared to any of the solutions out there. It also operates at room temperature, so it leads to more sustainable, lesser carbon footprint solution. And that helps us meet our sustainability goals in delivering the right kind of environment-friendly solutions to our customers. Today, we already have a box there. You see, it's a IC machine box in our lab. The solution is available on-prem as well as on the cloud, and it's easily accessible via APIs over the cloud. The all-to-all connected bit architecture of our solution ensures that the speed to solution and the quality of solution is far superior compared to some of the others. In the longer term, we are building a quantum computer. Our quantum computer is based on the photonics technology. Quantum computing, as you know, is a completely different paradigm of computing. And it has applications in domains spanning cryptography, chemistry, material science, and financial services, to name a few. So we are building a full-stack quantum computer. The end users will be able to run any kind of applications on top of the computer. We have a patent pending technology that differentiates the way we build some resource states that are the key building blocks of a quantum computer. The use of photonics enables us to do most of the operation at room temperature, and this yields a more cost-effective solution because we do not require very, very large dimension refrigerators that are often associated with quantum computers. We have 5 patents in this domain, and this is going to be ready in the next few years. I wanted to share some pictures of our lab in the laboratories. We have a clean facility where we are working on developing some chips. We have electronic chips as well as photonic chips. Our team that is doing characterization work on some of those chips. Down there you see the optical experimental setup where we are doing a second harmonic generation. That is.
Am I not audible? Is this better? Okay. So the optical table there shows a second harmonic generation experiment that is part of our efforts towards building the quantum computer. So that is what I wanted to share a little about.
Thank you, Aditi. Yes, please. So you talked about an optical Ising machine. I know this is a very deep tech audience here, but still not all of us are an expert in that. It's supposed to be a network of optical oscillators that are, so tell us a little bit about how does this work? How is it different from quantum computing?
So the Ising model is a mathematical model that describes the magnetic properties of materials. So it can be thought of as a system of interacting spins. And all of these spins, when they agree with each other, they settle down to the lowest energy level. So what we do is we formulate the problem into something called as a QUBO, that is a quadratic unconstrained binary optimization problem. And that is a problem that we put in this system. The system goes through a couple of iterations until it settles down to the lowest energy level. And this lowest energy level is the most optimum solution for that problem.
Perfect. So would that be an ideal way to solve, let's say, a quantum chemistry problem like a protein folding problem? So have you seen that work?
Yeah, so more than that, I would say problems where protein folding, yes, but problems where also, you know, there are a very large number of variables, like I said, a vehicle routing problem. There are multiple truck deliveries, and as the number of variables in this kind of a problem increase, the complexity, computational complexity increases exponentially.
So this is not a panacea, right? Not all problems can be solved with this technology, but there are some problems that are more easily solved and more relevant for this kind of a technology. Can you give us some insight as to how to choose the right problem to solve?
So any problem that doesn't have one single good solution, the most optimum problem, right? Any optimization problem. It could be optimizing your financial portfolio, like I said, making sure you pick the right mix of assets so that the risk is minimized. Or it could be even something like an airline cargo loading problem, where you make sure that the cargo that is packed in such a way that the space is optimally used, because a lot of space wastage is going to increase costs. So anything that requires optimizing from a number of choices, those are the kind of problems that are solved very well on this optimizer.
I know, Aditi, you mentioned to me offline that you're very close to launching it commercially. So tell us a little bit about your commercialization plan And have you seen some real-world problems in real-world situations being impacted by what you're building?
Yeah, so for this optimizer, we today have a product ready in the lab. Today it solves problems that are more than 1,000 variables. We will be we are starting to actually do a customer outreach. We will be scaling the hardware to support 20,000 variables in the coming few months. And by the beginning of next year, those products will be ready. So we are very, very close to commercialization. We are already talking to a few potential interested customers. One of the large services companies in India, we are solving both the vehicle routing and the financial optimization problem for them.
Amazing. Thank you, Aditi, for your insights. Thank you. We'll get the next speaker. Yeah, thanks. Can I have the next speaker on board? This is Amar, co-founder of BluJ Aerospace. Amar, please. Yeah.
Cool. Great to be here. We are BluJ Aero. We are formed with vision to make flying simple and sustainable. So these are the visuals that are quite familiar to most of us in the room, where the amount of time we spend on roads or the time we spend on our air travel on things which is other than flight is something that we all face every day. And there are some other facts which are less known. For example, this one here where India actually loses close to 65 billion a year because of logistics inefficiencies. And this was quite alarming, as that was 1/4 of the total logistics economy. And at BluJ, we wanted to go vertical, unlocking the full potential of going three-dimensional with the vertical takeoff and landing aircraft with long range and heavy payload. So our first product to market is going to be BluJ Reach, which can carry like 100 kgs of payload specific to cargo, over 300 kilometers of range, and this will be certified as a drone. And eventually, we want to bring larger aircraft, BluJ Hop, which can carry close to 10 passengers and over much longer distances, and this is going to unlock the true potential of VTOL aircraft. So we have already built a full-scale prototype aircraft, and what goes behind it is all the engineering that you're seeing here. We are a very vertically integrated company where we build a lot of technologies in-house, and what that gives us is a lot of control on the total progress of innovation at a capital efficiency, which is evident at the kind of capital and pace in which we have built our first full-scale prototype. We have done that in just less than 9 months. And like as you can see, it's the testing, everything, we completely do it in-house. And the team that we have, the brilliant team that has built and made this possible. So overall, what we see is aviation is going through a major transformation because of new technologies, and India has a unique opportunity to play a significant role in this. And at BluJ, we are aspiring to be a leader in this transformation by building these technologies from India for the world. Thank you.
So, Amar, you have this concept called vertical takeoff and landing. What's the big deal about vertical takeoff and landing, and how does it work?
So vertical takeoff and landing is something that has been there before. It's not something new that we're talking about. All helicopters are vertical takeoff and landing, right? But there are some reasons why these technologies haven't come to the fruit of seeing in everyday operation for everyone. They're still used for few niche use cases. So what we see is with this electrification coming, vertical takeoff and landing is opening up many more use cases and many more applications where the cost is coming down significantly. Helicopters are extremely expensive to operate. So that is one thing. And other thing is, particularly for countries like India. So we can't really afford to keep on building roads or keep on building high-speed rail for every use case. I mean, they do have their own use cases, but we still believe there has to be something else that has to solve problem for countries like India. And we believe already in the whole world, people have started working on these VTOL technologies, and we felt that if we don't work on it, somebody else will come and solve our problem. That is what we don't want it to let happen. At least we want to seize this opportunity to make VTOL technology the real solution for India. So just to give an analogy, what we're trying to do is we're leapfrogging what we have done in mobile industry, where we didn't really go through setting up a lot of towers for that. So that's exactly what we're doing with aviation today.
So you, at the current moment, the one you are launching soon, it already can handle 100 kg payload, from my understanding. So what are the technical challenges in making something like this work?
So a key point there is the first aircraft that we're building, which is the BluJ Reach, which can carry 100 kgs of payload. So we have restricted the total takeoff mass to 500 kgs. One of the reasons for that is Indian drone rules, which is again quite progressive compared globally, has given a clause which said any aircraft which is autonomous and less than 500 kgs can be certified as a drone. So that makes certification much faster, easier, and market entry faster. And now the real challenge comes from that. How do you achieve that 100 kg payload within 500 kgs of total takeoff mass? And that is where the whole innovation in terms of the kind of propulsion systems that we are using and the kind of in-house technologies that we are developing goes into that.
And this is what you're doing at BluJ is also a sustainable aviation technology, right? And how does it differ from other sustainable aviation technologies out there? What is unique about what you guys are doing?
So for us at BluJ, sustainability is two ways. One is sustainability in terms of zero emissions and sustainability in terms of your overall business sustainability, right? So zero emissions, obviously, we are fully a zero emission aircraft, that is undoubtable. And coming to the business sustainability, we looked at what are the ways in which you can reduce the operational cost of aviation. So that is what is actually going to bring the whole availability or reach of aviation to many people, right? And if you look at any other options that are available, be it the current aviation fuel or synthetic aviation fuels or hybrid propulsion systems with other types of fuels is only going to increase the operating costs. None of those are really geared towards reducing operating costs. So only option there is electrification, and that is what we are going after. And within electrification, again, if you really wanted to achieve the kind of range and payload that we are looking for, hydrogen is the only option. That's the reason why we chose it.
You talked specifically that it's a huge opportunity for India. Why is India uniquely positioned for this, and why does India uniquely need this technology?
I think the timing is right now that so first thing is, very recently, if any of you are following, DGCA, the governing authority of Indian aviation, has released VTOL regulation and vertiport regulations, drone regulations, and this is something we are seeing for the first time in the history, at least in my short span of my career. I have never seen Indian authorities releasing a clear rule book saying this is how we'll certify an aircraft in India. So now we can proudly say we have our own rules. We are not really going to depend on rules elsewhere. Otherwise, it was always a big question for us on how we get these things to be a reality, right? So now that's a big change. And second thing is even within those rules, the clauses that Indian DGCA has given are quite more progressive than what other clauses from EASA or FAA. So for example, the 500 kg drone is not available with any other, federal agencies elsewhere. So outside of India, anything less than 25 kg or 30 kg still cannot be certified as a drone like in India. So that's quite progressive. And opportunity-wise, like I said, we have seen what happened to mobile, right? I'll come back to the same analogy.
Of course.
So the kind of opportunity there with how mobiles have penetrated to 300 million users today, we are seeing similar thing with even VTOL technologies.
Thank you, Amar. Can I have Aditi and Deepak back on stage, please? Because we want to take some audience questions. We'll take one, we have just about enough time to get one question each for each of the three companies here. So anyone who has a question for, let's start with anyone who has a question for Deepak? Anyone who has a question? Okay, go ahead, the gentleman at the back. Yeah, can we have a mic there, please?
Hello, good morning everyone. Myself Shubham. So I have a question around all these biotech solutions or healthcare solutions we are building right now, correct?
Yes.
The one common factor comes in between is trust. How do you build that trust and keep it up, right? The other question is, healthcare industry is very typical where doctors challenge each other. Like if you go to one doctor, their reports are challenged by other doctor. They don't believe in that. They will write their own prescriptions. At the end of the day, tie to money and business. But how do you cope up with that? Like, how do you ensure that doctors and the whole industry aligns with your solution? And how do you build the trust in the public or people so that they can trust your solution? Because these are very crucial.
Thank you. Got the question?
Thank you, Shubham. I think a good question, right? Because the place that we are in right now, and we are talking about lives, I think trust is the most important factor, and we always like to go to the doctor on whom we trust, right? But talking about technology, talking about Cellworks and how we build trust, I think the only path that is available with us to establish it is the regulatory bodies. So, FDA. So that's where basically where we are in the process of running clinical trials, taking it to the FDA, getting approval on our technology, and then coming it to the market. So with that, you are basically able to crack through the doctors, tell them that there's a lot that has been tested behind that, there's a lot that has been approved, and only after that, this technology is something that will come in. And the second part of your question is, you go to Doctor 1 and you go to Doctor 2, there's a difference in the prescription that comes out. And what our technology will solve is exactly that. If we are being able to embed ourselves as a standard of care system, you go to any doctor, using this technology, the outcome is always going to be the same. So you would be eliminating those differences and nuances as well.
Thank you.
I hope I've answered your question.
Anyone who has a question for Aditi from Quanfluence? Yes, gentlemen, right at the back, very last row. Can we have that question? Yes, yes.
Yeah, hi. So I listened to your pitch and I was following on the thought that you are saying that this solution is more energy efficient. So is it a computing solution you are making it more efficient, or is it a climate tech solution you are trying to build? Like, I hope you are able to follow my thought there.
So when I say our solution is more energy efficient, it means when a customer deploys it at their premises or access it on cloud, right? The overall energy consumption of the solution is far more environment friendly. If you look at some of the high compute solutions that are in the market today, all high power GPUs, they're extremely power hungry devices, and our aim is to build something that is a little more environment friendly. So that is the thing. There is a second part also to this. The solutions that we deliver to the end customer, when you optimize, say, a truck delivery operation, you are going to end up saving fuel, right? So that is another aspect where the solution delivered itself is also going to try and be more sustainable and environment friendly.
Thank you, Aditi. One last question, if anyone has for Amar. Amar, only for Amar. Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. So it's actually wonderful to see the progress. As a former aerospace engineer, I love what you are doing.
Thank you.
My simple question is, how will you ensure safety and security, especially when you have these huge objects flying above the sky, and we know how traffic is in India. So please enlighten us.
Yeah, so I think safety is foremost. What actually, if there is one thing that we have to tell, separates out aviation from other industries, that's safety. The kind of importance we give for safety from day one, right? And all the strict regulations are there for the same reason. So we have to still ensure safety level of, for example, if you're carrying passengers, we still have to ensure safety level of 1 in billion case reliability that have to be proven. And that is something that we will be proving with sub-level, component level tests, subsystem level testing. So we have to establish that reliability at each and every component, and at a system level, testing it in the flight and proving it out. And within the aircraft itself, we do have redundancy for various critical subsystems. There is no single point of failure that will be accepted even for our internal design practices. So always we have redundancy for electronics or propulsion system. And everywhere we do have multiple redundancies to ensure safety.
Thank you, Amar. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry. I think we are completely out of time. We can maybe take this offline. Ladies and gentlemen, please give another big round of applause for these 3 amazing companies that are each solving the holy grail in their industry. So more power to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Srikanth.